Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Financial Aid and Scholarships 101 session. We are so excited that you're joining us here tonight. My name is Aliana, and I'm a senior admissions counselor at Boise State. And I'm going to go ahead and give you kind of the run of show, what to expect for this evening while you're staying with us for the next hour. So first, we're going to be talking about what is financial aid, and then how to apply and review any aid that you've been awarded at this point. And then we're going to give you a little bit more information about gap funding. And then towards the end, we're going to have a live Q&A. So if you're looking at your screen now, you'll see towards the bottom, there is a Q&A icon. So if you have any questions throughout the next half hour, hop in there, type in your question, and then we'll reserve that towards the end where we'll have representatives from our financial aid and scholarships office to help answer those. So now I would love to go ahead and introduce a couple of folks that are going to be joining us tonight. The first being Daniel Lemus and Sharon Gilchrist. I'll go ahead and kick it off to them.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sharon Gilchrist, and I'm financial aid, and my colleague Daniel Lemus is here. We're going to go over some financial aid and scholarship information just to make sure that you all have the basics going on. Go ahead and move screens. So let's start off with what is financial aid, just to get us thinking, what is it? So is it my FAFSA money? Is it, gosh, anything that could help me pay for college, winning the lottery? Or is it grants, work study, loans, and scholarships? So not everyone knows what financial aid is, and hopefully that's what we get our questions answered today. So what is financial aid? Financial aid is federal aid from the Department of Education. It's state aid in terms of scholarships and grants. There is private money through scholarships, and then through the federal process, which we'll be doing the FAFSA. Federal financial aid incorporates the federal Pell Grant, and grants are always money that are free money. So we're always looking for the free money first. So grants are money that do not have to be repaid. And then there's also a work study program where students can earn money based on their financial aid and their FAFSA need eligibility, and they get to get a job on campus working part-time using work study funds for part of their financial aid. Now, work study does not get applied to tuition. It helps with those other expenses during school. The other portion that comes from FAFSA is student loans. We know that student loans are an option, and there's student loans, there's parent loans, and there's alternative private loans. And then we're also going to be talking about scholarships. So we use all these different sources to try and fund a student's cost of attendance, and all of these are considered financial aid, including student loans that have to be repaid. Next. All right, so how do you get this money? How do we get financial aid? So the first step is submit all of your admissions materials, get enrolled, and then complete the Boise State scholarship application. That scholarship application is closing very shortly. It will be closing on February 15th. And these are the Boise State scholarship application is for scholarships that are coming up for fall of 22 and spring of 23. So I want to encourage everyone to make sure that you've completed that Boise State scholarship application. Again, it closes February 15th, which is in 12 more days. The next step is to complete the scholarship application for your academic department, and you can check with your academic advisor or admissions advisor for that. And then Idaho residents, we encourage you to complete the State of Idaho scholarship application, and that is for the Idaho Opportunity Scholarship. The fifth step is completing your FAFSA. So students who are coming in for fall of 22 will want to complete their 2022-23 FAFSA. When you're completing that, get your 2020 income taxes prepared so that that's the information that will be used for FAFSA, is using the 2020 income information for both students and parents. And then the sixth step is to complete any other Boise scholarship application or private scholarship applications. And we're going to use all those different aid opportunities to try and package the entire cost of attendance is what we're working for. But all of those components, whether it's scholarships that don't have to be repaid, grants that do not have to be repaid. Student loans are an option coming from FAFSA. Parent loans will be discussed later on with Daniel. And then the work study program is also another opportunity to apply for financial aid and use that for your educational expenses. Next screen, please. All right, so how do you do the FAFSA? The very first step is submitting that FAFSA. You can either go to fafsa.gov or studentaid.gov will all lead you back to the same site to complete the FAFSA. Both a student and a parent are going to complete an FSA ID. That's kind of your username to sign your FAFSA. And you'll use that every year completing the FAFSA. Every year it opens up October 1st. We encourage everyone to apply early. And so again, we're going to be working on the 2022-2023 FAFSA for this upcoming fall year. Our financial aid award year goes from fall, spring, and then summer is our trailer term in terms of funding education and FAFSA out of the academic year. Next. So Daniel's going to go over how to review your award letter. But once you receive this, the most important part is to make sure that at this point, every student is reaching out through their Bronco mail, their Bronco Boise State email, and checking out their student center for important information. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this on to Daniel, my colleague in financial aid. Here you go, Daniel.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Sharon. As Sharon was saying, once we package people or award people, students, they will get an award letter. We will always send that to their Bronco mail. That's their student email that they get once they're accepted here to Boise State. We'll also send a letter to them as well, but the Boise State email is the fastest way to get that. There's going to be quite a few things on this letter, but I think the two kind of most important things to look at is what the cost of attendance would be, which is the average cost to attend Boise State. There's quite a few different categories in there. Some of them aren't always like completely accurate. For example, transportation, that can be pretty variable. Personal miscellaneous, that can be pretty variable. But the tuition and fees, and especially if they're living on campus with a room and board, that can be pretty accurate. And then towards the bottom, we'll have what sort of awards students are eligible for. That's going to include scholarships, grants, work study, loans, all of those sorts of things. What's a nice thing about this award letter is that once you get it and the student has access to their account, they can actually log on to their Boise State and use what's called the bottom line estimator. This is a really useful tool that can help families understand how much they may need to pay out of pocket, or what else sort of funding sources they might need to make sure that it's feasible to attend Boise State. That's really useful because, you know, sometimes you might have a scholarship or other loans, or even like a 529 or tuition payment plan that you have in place that we're not aware of, that you can enter into this bottom line estimator. But yeah, you should be getting that award letter once you are accepted and have those awards packaged. We're going to go ahead and switch to a video. We're going to have one of our work studies, Melina, explain how to accept aid on the Boise State portal.
Hi, my name is Melina, and in this video I will outline how you can accept or decline your financial aid. To log into your student center, go to My Boise State, and you'll just want to enter your username and password. Once you're logged in, then you'll want to click on the Student View button. And on the right, under Services, you'll see Student Center. This will open a new tab. If this does not open a new tab, all you'll need to do is just click on the log symbol right next to the URL, Site Settings, scroll down to Pop-ups and Redirects, and make sure it's on Allow. Then click on the Financial Aid tile, select on the appropriate year.
We do have that video on our website, and as well as written instructions as well of how to accept the aid. So it's pretty easy to access. You don't have to have any sort of login to get to that website. So here we have kind of another multiple choice. How do I review my aid? We have option A, go on a trip. That's probably not the right one, but we'll see if that's one you pick. Log into my student center, call my grandma, or use the bottom line estimator. So as far as how to review your aid, the best option is going to be going to your student center at the my.boisestate.edu. As that video would have shown, and as we have available on our website, you can go right in there and you can see the aid that's available there and accept any sort of scholarships or loans that you're wanting to take out. Perfect. So this slide is kind of reviewing gap funding. So, you know, there might be situations or instances where, you know, Boise State is your dream school, which is awesome, but we are all about trying to make the finances work. And sometimes there might be some funding that has to be made up to make sure that that becomes a reality. Some of the options that we have, starting up at the top, is private scholarships. I don't know if this is necessarily our most recommended one, but it is one that is an option. So that would be sort of, you know, loans through non-federal sources. So that be like a bank or other third parties that specialize in student loans. We do have a website, again, on our financial aid page that has a list of lenders that we're aware of. And so you can definitely start there to look at and kind of compare those lenders. But this is not federal loans. So, you know, you might get a different interest rate from one lender than another one, or different payment plans or different perks between those lenders. There's also State of Idaho scholarship. Sharon covered that. If you are an Idaho resident, that's something that you can definitely look at. But that's only for Idaho residents. If you're a non-resident, typically what we'd recommend is looking at, you know, just any sort of personal affiliations that you might have. We've seen scholarships come in through high schools that students have attended, employers of parents, employers of students, religious organizations, civic organizations, sport organizations. So really kind of taking into account any of those personal relationships that you have that you can kind of leverage to get those scholarships. And then we also have our Boise State general application that, as Sharon was mentioning before, is closing here soon on February 15th. Other than that, we do have the Parent Plus loans. That is a federal loan that is available, but that would be in the name of the parent. But that does come at a fixed interest rate, and there's not really a limit on that, which can be a scary thing, but potentially also a good thing. And then the last thing is consortium agreements, which would be the ability to take classes at Boise State. And I think if you're trying to save on tuition, most commonly would be our community college here, the College of Western Idaho, to use those credits to get full-time financial aid while getting less tuition at a community college. The consortium agreements, though, are not usable for our admission scholarships. So things like the WUI, the Payette, the Alpine, True Blue, Presidential, none of those can be used for the consortium agreements. And I'm realizing now that I misread the slide, and the first one says private scholarships, which that is an option as well. We have that link on our Boise State website of private scholarships that we're aware of, but those, you know, are not guaranteed. They're typically national searches. They can be a little harder to be eligible for. You know, someone could apply for 1,000 of them and get none of them. And you just want to kind of be careful of that. If they're asking you to pay money to apply for them or asking for a social security number, I would not recommend applying for that scholarship. And then Olivia, if we could go to the next slide, please. Cool. Well, it looks like we're open for some questions. Aliana, I'm hoping we got some good ones.
Yes, we got a lot of good questions. So keep them coming too, because we have plenty of time to answer these. And keep in mind, anything that we can't get to, we'll be sure to share the contact information of our financial aid and scholarships office at the end of this. So then that way you can always reach out to them too. All right, so I'll go ahead and start off with the first question that's been popping up quite often in the Q&A. Folks want to know, when does the award letter become available, and do you have to commit to Boise State first in order to receive that letter?
Yeah, so you do not have to commit to get that award letter. We typically wait to send that out until we do our official awarding with the FAFSA funding. So hopefully most of you have filled out the FAFSA. We were expecting to do non-resident awarding this Friday. So as long as there's not any sort of system issues, which sometimes can happen, we're expecting that to happen tomorrow. And then we're just waiting for the standard mail processing, which, hopefully we have the right address. It can take, 10 business days for that to arrive. But again, that can come through the Boise State email account much, much faster. And they can always access their student center through the My.Boise State to see it really quickly and access that bottom line estimator, which is essentially the award letter.
Great, thank you. Next question is, do we apply for the Pell Grant?
Yeah, you're going to apply for the Pell Grant, and that is through the FAFSA application. And FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So if you're ever at the wrong link and they're asking you again to pay to apply for federal aid, you should never be applying and paying to apply for federal aid. But through the FAFSA, we're looking at federal aid, which includes the Pell Grant, which is free, and then we'll offer student loans as well.
Great, thank you. Next question is there a way that you can appeal the amount of an EFC that the FAFSA determines?
Yeah, so there's not really an appeal process of like saying, I don't like the CFC, I want a different one. But we do have a process, right now the FAFSA is being looked at the 2020 income. And there's been tons of changes to income with just the pandemic and just lots of things happening. So we have these processes, which are known as special conditions processes, where students and families can submit the form to our office to look at changing what year, what income is being looked at on the FAFSA. Our first special conditions won't come live until May 1st. So it's not something that you can do right at this moment. However, if you're feeling like this is something that your family is facing, we always recommend that you set up an appointment with a counselor, such as myself or Sharon, or some of our other counselors that we have. And we can run a simulation even before that form comes live to see if it would even make a difference. Because, unfortunately, sometimes you have a big change to your family, but in the eyes of the federal government, it's not a change that's big enough to have any sort of effect on the financial aid that you would receive through the FAFSA. But yeah, we do have that available. In short, not available until May 1st, but please set up an appointment with us and we'd love to run that simulation and see if we'd be able to help you out in changing your EFC and ideally getting better and more financial aid through the FAFSA.
Great, thank you. All right, next question is, can you accept scholarships and deny loans, or do you have to accept them all together?
No, you can accept whatever form of aid that you have been offered. You always have the opportunity to accept it, reduce it, or decline it. And you can take any portion or package of it all. So you don't have to accept any or all of the loans that are offered. If you are eligible for a Pell Grant, we're automatically going to accept that award for you. We know that you want the free money. So that's only one that you don't have to accept.
Thank you, Sharon. All right, a parent has a question that they have 2 students that will be at Boise State. Yay. Do they have to complete the FAFSA for each student, or is there a way to add a student to one that they've already completed?
Yeah, you definitely have to do it for both of them. And the reason why that is that the FAFSA is based off of the student and the family. So, if you have one student, one of your children that's making $1 million because they got like just a sweet job out of high school or something like that, and you have another child that likes to play video games or something like that, they might have different FAFSAs. So yes, there's not a way to just only use the parent information and just submit it for each children, because the kids also have to provide their information.
I'm going to tag on to that one. And students are also, they have a limited amount of financial aid as a lifetime limit. So we don't want to merge them with other students or other siblings. Each student gets their own lifetime limit of allotment of financial aid eligibility.
Yeah, and I think another good thing just within that, talking about financial aid processes in general, is that, you know, besides the admission scholarships, all of these processes are going to be yearly processes. So, you know, for those 2 children that you have, you're going to have to fill out a FAFSA for each of them every single year. They're going to have to apply for the Boise State scholarship application, other scholarship applications, potentially other loans every single year. So it is a yearly process that needs to happen. So, you know, when you create those FAFSA accounts, the FSA ID, you definitely want to remember them, because they're going to come in pretty handy.
Awesome, thank you. All right, next question is, if the student moves to Idaho in the 2nd year, are they still considered out of state?
Many students are considered out of state or non-resident for all 4 years of their college. So our registrar's department really determines those state regulations, but basically you cannot become an Idaho resident for purposes of education only. So any additional questions, we want to refer to the experts over in our registrar's office. But just because you live here a year, like some of our other neighboring states, you don't automatically become an Idaho resident. So.
Yeah, and I have been throwing things into the chat while we've been talking. The last one I just threw in there was our registrar's page on residency. They have some frequently asked questions, the official form that you need to use to gain residency. And then Josh Wilkins in our registrar's office, he's really great about being the point person and helping with any sort of questions you have on that.
Thank you. All right, this one has to do with the FAFSA. They wanted to know, how do you apply for work study?
On your FAFSA, there is a question. It says, are you interested in work study? All you have to do is say yes. It is a need-based program. So we're going to use your EFC, which is your estimated family contribution. You do have to have remaining financial need to qualify for work study, but that whole process starts by answering yes on the FAFSA application. If you are not originally awarded it, but still interested in it, every year we open up our work study wait list in June so that you can put your name and be considered if you weren't in the original offering of work study funds.
Great, thank you. This one has to do with the parent loan. So if a parent loan is taken out, they want to know, when do payments start, and can they start after the student is no longer a full-time student, so after they graduate, or do the payments start immediately?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's kind of funny because there's a question on the application. I was sitting down with a parent the other day, filling out that application, and there's a question in there that actually ask, like, when do you want to start making these payments, like right away or 6 months after the student graduates? So the choice is up to you. I don't know why you would say immediately, because, you know, if you are able to do that, what's the point of taking out a loan? But that's definitely an option, is to wait until the student ideally graduates. Officially all loans, the Parent Plus loans, student loans, you know, the private loans, not so much. It just kind of depends on the lender that you're going through if you decide to go that route. But all the federal loans, payments don't start until 6 months after the student is no longer attending half-time, which is for an undergraduate 6 or more credits.
And one more caveat to the student loans and parent loans, there's never any prepayment penalty. So if you want to get going and start paying those loans off, there's never a prepayment penalty to start early.
Thank you. All right, a really popular one that's been coming up is where do you find academic department scholarships, and what are department scholarships, and when is the application deadline for those?
Yeah, so most of our, we've done a pretty good job of integrating all of our academic scholarships just right into the general Boise State scholarship application. I don't think I put I put the link in. It's boisestate.edu/scholarships. If you go there and select who you are and just go through the steps, it's typically step 3 or step 4, depending on which option you pick. It's the Boise State General Scholarship application. How that application works is it's going to start with, pretty much like 5 or 10 minutes of work to just say who you are and press submit. Once you do that, it's going to put you in what we call automatic scholarships. So just any sort of scholarship that doesn't require any sort of extra work. So, if they say like a scholarship for Daniel on the Zoom, perfect, I'm in, sounds good. But then other than that, there's going to be other scholarship applications that would need to be filled out. So that could be for academic departments, that could be for other things that would be needed, like, submitting a resume, submitting a cover letter, reference letters. So it's all through that just general Boise State scholarship application. Sharon, are you aware of any academic departments that aren't using? I think the Honors College is maybe the only one.
And they have their separate link on there.
Yeah.
But it's always good to check in with your academic department and ask. The answer is always no until you ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but a majority of them are just through that general application. And then you might have to do some extra steps of filling out a department scholarship or submitting additional documents.
Great, thank you. All right, so going to shift it over to work study a little bit again. Some folks are wondering, are students still able to work on campus if they don't qualify for work study?
Yeah, so we have students can go through Handshake. So if you type Handshake in to the Boise State site, that's kind of our student job portal. And that's where we direct all of our work study students to find on-campus jobs. And then there's also non-work study jobs. So just temporary student jobs are going to be found through Handshake portal on our website. So with work study jobs, they have to be enrolled at least 6 credits as an undergraduate, and then maintain eligibility through FAFSA with your satisfactory academic progress and your enrollment. And then they earn a biweekly paycheck by working on campus.
Yeah, and I always just like to mention for those who haven't been to Boise, the campus is basically like right downtown, and there are, it might be similar to where you're at, but there are now hiring signs all over the place with signing bonuses and all sorts of things. So, even if they aren't able to get a job on campus, there are lots of opportunities to work around campus, like off campus, but just like right around the campus. And, they wouldn't even need to have a car, like honestly, not even a bike, probably, to be able to get employment if needed, just right around campus.
I'm going to tag on to that in that the advantages of work study on campus is students are not allowed to work while school is in session. So they'll never be compromised by being asked to work while they have class in session. So the on-campus work study jobs are always going to work around a student's schedule. They're not allowed to work more than 20 hours a week. And their FAFSA income is not counted, or their work study income is not counted on their future FAFSA applications. And they also don't take out FICA taxes, so they bring home more money on their net paycheck.
Thank you. All right, so these questions have been coming up as well. Some students are wondering, they've done their FAFSA, but their Boise State account is saying that they haven't done it yet. If they're seeing that, what should they do next?
Yeah, so I would recommend that they reach out to us to kind of check it out. I think a really common issue with that is that right now there's two FAFSAs that are open. There's one that's open for this current academic year, and there's one that's open for the next academic year. So there's a chance that they maybe didn't fill out the right FAFSA. Another common issue that we see is that they don't include the Boise State school code. So they might have filled out the FAFSA and only included, a local school or another school besides Boise State. So they might just need to go in and add Boise State so that we have access to it. I think those are really the two most common things that we see. Yeah, so definitely reach out to us. We're always happy to help you. If you happen to be on campus, we are open Monday to Friday, 8 to 5, besides holidays, and no appointment needed. Happy to help you. You can email us, you can call us. But those are the two most common issues: wrong year or didn't include our school code. And I can go ahead and put our school code in the chat really quick. It's pretty easy, 001616. So if you want to log into the FAFSA for next year, it's the 2022-2023 FAFSA, and just making sure we have that school code on there.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so this kind of ties in with some of the conversation earlier. So you had mentioned that the aid would be offered in the letter sometime later this week. Will Boise State be sending that to their my.boise state email address or their personal email address?
I think it goes to the Bronco, their Boise State email address. And that's, so once they get enrolled or once they get admitted, they really want to start using that boisestate.edu email.
Yeah, and on top of that, once we send that initial award letter, there's not another one that's sent out. So, if you apply for a Parent Plus loan or a private loan or get additional scholarships, there's not a new award letter that's sent out. So again, going into the my.boise state portal through the Student Center is the best way to see the current status of what you have accepted, what you haven't accepted. That award letter is really just kind of a snapshot of a single point in time, which can change.
Thank you. All right, a new question came in. Someone was wondering, they're not sure if they did include the school code on the FAFSA, but they've already submitted it. Can they go back in and add this?
Yeah, they can go back into their FAFSA and just add in our school code. And you can add in up to 10 school codes at a time and change them around.
Cool, thank you. All right, so this ties in with the parent student loans. So someone was wondering, will it start adding interest at the origination of the loan or once the student graduates?
You want to take that, Daniel?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So that Parent Plus loan and also sometimes the federal student loans as well will start to gain interest as soon as they're originated. So when it comes to the student loans, there's two types. There's the subsidized loan and the unsubsidized loan. And the unsubsidized loan will start to gain interest immediately. We're kind of in a wonky time right now where we've had, due to the pandemic, no interest accruing, no payments due, of that sort. And that's been ongoing for I think a year and a half now. And they keep on extending the date. It was supposed to be the end of January. Now it's the end of May. When it was the end of January, I was like, I don't think they're going to extend it. I was telling families that, and then they did. So now it's the end of the May, and I don't think they're going to extend it, but we'll see. But in normal times, the Parent Plus loan and the unsubsidized loan, and typically the private loans too. I've never heard of a private loan that suspends interest at all. Will all start to gain interest once the loan is released. That being the case, the loans are always split in half. Usually that's the case with all financial aid, where you get half of it for fall and half of it for spring. So, if let's just say you took out a $20,000 Parent Plus loan. If you get 10,000 of it in fall, that 10,000 will start to gain interest once it's released in August, and the other half of that 20,000 wouldn't start to gain interest until it's released in January. So that's kind of how that works, unless the the pandemic relief is extended again.
Great, thank you. All right, we're going to switch it up a little bit again and talk about some non-resident scholarships. So first, we've got some folks asking about the eligibility requirements for the WUI with some recent changes in this last year, and if you can explain that.
Sure, the WUI is our non-resident, and we have changed our the requirements from year to year, and that's just based on market and our enrollment. So WUI coming in for freshmen coming in fall of 22, spring 23, the WUI is our top non-resident scholarship at $14,661. It's renewable for up to 4 years. And the criteria to get that was that the student had to have an unweighted high school GPA of 3.9 to 4.0. And to have that automatically renewed, students need to complete 24 credits in the academic year and then maintain a renewal cumulative GPA of 3.0 or higher. And so again, that's renewable for 4 years as long as they're meeting those renewable criteria. The WUI in maybe prior years have different criteria. So if you had another kid that went in earlier, they may have had a different qualifying criteria and then renewable criteria as well. So these are the changes for this new incoming year.
Yeah, and as far as I know that, like, you know, working in our office, I've gotten a lot of questions about why. And as far as like the why of the change, really, you know, it's not like a super, you know, feel good, comfy answer, but it's the reality of it is that we're a public institution that is funded by Idaho taxpayer dollars, and we basically got a directive from our State Board of Education to focus on recruiting Idaho residents, and so we. With that kind of directive, we had to make changes of our scholarship criteria to have better opportunities for Idaho taxpayers.
Thank you. All right, so I've got another question about the WUI and the Payette scholarship. So some people are wondering if your WUI or Payette scholarship could be revoked for any reason prior to the start of school this upcoming fall term.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be revoked unless they change their majors. So there are some eligible major requirements that have to be met. You know, a lot of them are pre-nursing, pre-radiological. We have that listed on the website that I see that Olivia shared. But yeah, none of them would be revoked based upon that. You know, I think I kind of am getting towards the essence of that question, and that's kind of like, you know, if, you know, a student completely flunks their last semester or something like that and just tanks their GPA, typically we would not revoke that unless it's like really, really severe. So, you know, if they're bringing their GPA down from a 3.9 to a 3.8, that wouldn't happen. You know, there are specific requirements to get it per semester, so they have to be full-time with no consortium agreement. So if they're in 8 credits or, you know, anything less than 12, they wouldn't be able to get that scholarship. And I think just within that, as long as we're on the non-resident scholarship question, some of the things that we've been asked is a really common question is, you know, if I come in with a Payette and increase my GPA, can I then get the WUI? And that's not the case. You can't jump from one level to the other. And another question that we get is if I have like no non-resident scholarship, admission scholarship, can I get it once if I do well? And that's not the case either. If you start at Boise State with a specific admission scholarships, you're essentially locked into that, and unfortunately, the only change that can happen is losing it if you don't meet specific renewal criteria. I think another good thing to share is when it comes to those, you know, those scholarship deadlines, you know, sometimes it's the opposite way, that people are feeling really good about the spring semester and think that they're going to raise their GPA, and maybe they were at like a 3.85 or, something right on the line, and now they're going to be at a 3.9 by the time they start at Boise State. So it's based upon the deadline, which is December 15th. But if they are raising their GPA and are going to be meeting that deadline, it's totally fine to start a semester later. Our spring deadline for those scholarships isn't until October 1st, which is still quite a few months away. So if you're wanting to do that, I believe it's admissions, and Aliana, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're wanting to do that and go to a community college or take a semester off, you can work with admissions to defer your enrollment to spring of 2023 to either meet that deadline or raise the GPA and be considered for a different scholarship.
Thank you. All right, so more questions are coming in mainly about the details of our non-resident and resident scholarships. So maybe to kind of answer a lot of those, could one of you go ahead and describe the different options for our non-resident automatic scholarships as well as our resident scholarships, provide the GPA minimum, and then what is the minimum GPA to continue receiving that award each year for 4 years at Boise State?
Sure, I'll go ahead and take that one. So again, this is for incoming 22-23 class. So WUI is 3.9 to 4.0 is the requirement GPA. The dollar amount, $14,661 annually. It's renewable for 4 years. The renewable criteria is 24 credits completed in the academic year and maintaining a renewable cumulative GPA of 3.0. The next non-resident scholarship on the next category down is called the Payette, and that GPA is 3.5 to 4.0. The dollar amount is $8,000 annually for 4 years. And then again, same renewable criteria, 24 credits and 3.0 GPA. And then our third non-resident is the Alpine, and that has a GPA requirement of 3.2 to 3.49. It's renewable for 4 years at $2,000 annually. This one has a 24 credit completion rate, but they have a lower GPA requirement of 2.5. That's the one difference. And then our non-resident, or excuse me, our residential scholarships for our Idaho residential students. We have the Presidential Scholarship, and that one has a GPA requirement. Again, those are for Idaho residents. So presidential is 3.9 to 4.0, $2,500 a year annually for 4 years. And the renewable criteria, 24 credits and 3.0 GPA. The next one is the Dean's Scholarship, 3.7 to 3.89. $2,000 a year annually for 4 years, 24 credits and 3.0 GPA. And then our final residential scholarship is our True Blue Promise, and that's 3.20 minimum GPA, $2,000 a year annually for 4 years. And again, that has that lower GPA requirement of 2.5 rather than the 3.0, and then completing 24 credits in the academic year.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And I'm just gonna, that one, when you're looking at the website, you just want to make sure that you're looking at the correct incoming year, because we have different scholarship criterias with the same name, but for different for different incoming years. So just make sure that you're looking at the 22-23 academic year scholarships.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add again that for the non-residents, there is the eligible major criteria as well. So you want to keep an eye out on that. And then for the WUI, the Western Undergraduate Exchange, that is for specific states. So, we've had people that have come from the East Coast. We've had a few more people that have been coming from Texas. So even if you did have a 3.9, if you're from those states, unfortunately, you wouldn't be eligible for the WUI. Due to it being an agreement through states that are on the Western coast or western region of the United States.
Great, thank you. And on that, some people are wondering, can they still apply for these awards? So specifically the non-resident, since that December 15th date has passed. And then are these awards given out automatically?
Yeah, so they're given out automatically. So if you were eligible for them, or if your student was eligible for them, they would already have notification of that in their student center, which they should be able to log into. At this time, you couldn't apply for them for fall 2022. So as I was mentioning earlier, if you missed the deadline or if the GPA has increased, you could look at deferring your enrollment through admissions to spring 2023. And again, I just really want to be very clear that if you start fall 2022 without these scholarships, you would never be able to get them again. So that's a pretty common misconception, is that people assume that they can just start and then meet the criteria later on, and unfortunately that's not the case. So if you miss a deadline or the GPA, the only way to be able to get that would be starting at the latest or at the earliest spring 2023, but they're automatic. So
Cool. Thanks, you two. Yeah, so I just have to say, we are getting so many great questions, and I wish we had time to get to them all, but we're going to spend the next 5 minutes still covering a few more of these questions. And then, like I mentioned before, I'll be sure to share Daniel and Sharon's contact information towards the end of this. So any of you who have been asking about meeting with a financial aid person or setting up an appointment with them, you can definitely do that after today's meeting too. All right, so this next one kind of has to do with non-resident awards as well as the GI Bill. So a parent was wondering, if our student was awarded a payette, but they're going to be using the GI Bill for a few months, can they continue to use the payette even when they're no longer using the GI Bill?
They have to have non-resident fees to receive that payette scholarship. So you can use both of them, but to have these non-residential scholarships, they must have the non-resident fees applied. So sometimes when they're in veteran status or GI, sometimes they don't have non-resident fees. So that's the criteria, is to get those scholarships, they must be being charged non-resident charges.
yeah, and a lot of times I've seen on accounts when they have those like Chapter 33 benefits that are kind of paying those fees. A lot of times what our scholarships office will do, will just kind of put a pause on those scholarships. So when you're receiving those benefits, you wouldn't be receiving those non-resident scholarships, but typically you would just send an email saying, hey, my benefits are expected to expire fall of 2024, and I was eligible for the payette. Can you go ahead and reinstate that? And our scholarships office will do that with no problem at all. And they have a specific email as well to help with that.
Thank you. All right, so now I have a question about Honors College. Some folks are wondering, does the Honors College have their own scholarships? And if so, how do they go about applying for those awards?
Honors does have their own scholarship. It's part of the step-by-step process on our scholarships page. As you're working through all those different steps, they're on the very final step when you're down to private scholarships. There's also an honors scholarship link that you can check out, and they do have their own scholarship.
Thank you. All right, next one is, and unless this was already included in the chat, maybe we can add it again, a link to the general scholarship application, because some people are wondering, on the application, some awards list February 22nd as the deadline, but for other awards that we're voicing today, we're mentioning the 15th. Can you kind of tell them the difference between the two dates?
Yeah, I mean, really the difference is that most of them like truly are February 22nd, but due to just kind of the working of the calendar, we just want to make sure that people meet everything. So the website is accurate. We just kind of working with students and families just know that, if we say February 15th, that hopefully that means that they'll meet it by February 22nd. So, that's kind of the messaging that we do, but the deadlines on the website are the ones that are the true and accurate ones.
Perfect, thank you. All right, can one of you explain the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans?
Sure. Subsidized loans are need-based, so you have to qualify based on your need as determined by the FAFSA. And with the subsidized loan, the interest is not being accrued, is not being charged to the student as long as they're enrolled in school at least half time, and they're in that in-school deferment status. There's no interest being charged on the subsidized loan. So it's being subsidized by the Department of Ed. And then interest doesn't begin to be charged on the subsidized loans until the actually student goes into repayment. And so that's when interest will actually begin on a subsidized loan. The unsubsidized loan and the Parent Plus loan, those interests start as soon as those funds are dispersed to the school.
Thank you. All right, so back to work study. Does the money that you make in work study get paid to the student for living expenses, or does it go towards their tuition only?
Work study will never go towards their student account. They earn a bi-weekly paycheck, just like a regular job, and that student gets a check just like a regular bi-weekly paycheck. So it's for the student to spend and use however they need to, but it will never be applied to a student account towards tuition.
Thank you. All right, so I'll make this the last question that's come up. Some students are wondering, does Boise State accept scholarships outside of the university? So for example, if they received a scholarship from where their parents work, can they use that?
Yeah, absolutely. So most of the way that still works is, those checks would be sent to our office. We have our contact information and our mailing address on our main website. So typically those would be sent to our office. We will receive them and then process them. So if you have those checks, you just would want to share with your donor, probably your student ID number. If we just get a check with a name, sometimes that can be hard to link to your account. So we usually just recommend that they send them to our office, include your student ID number, and then the donor kind of has a power of when they're going to send the check, but ideally if they can send it as soon as possible so that we have time to process it and have it on your account ready to go when tuition and fees are due. If it comes in late, you might have to set something else up. But yeah, we absolutely would accept those scholarships.
Cool, thank you. And then one last time, just in case anybody did join us, because some questions have come through again about this, can you just let everybody know when that award letter is about expected to hit the mailbox for them or their inbox?
Yeah, again, it just depends on the mail, which I feel like sometimes mail is just becoming more and more unreliable. So I would always recommend that families and students check the student center. That's going to be the most accurate way to view that. And that bottom line estimator is really, really useful. It's essentially the same thing as the award letter, but up to date when you're checking on it. But as far as when that's expected to hit the mailbox, we're doing awarding ideally tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow. And then, they'll be generated and it can take, 1 to 2 weeks to show up.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Daniel and Sharon, for sharing all of this information with everybody and answering these really great questions. And as I mentioned, I wish that we had more time to answer these, but we racked up about 120 questions in total, so that's pretty amazing for tonight. So as you can see there on the screen, if any of you did want to set up an appointment, go ahead and either take a screenshot or type in that URL on your phone. That way you can save it for later if you did want to set up a one-on-one appointment with financial aid and scholarships, or you can always email them or call them there at the information on the bottom right-hand side. And next, I want to go ahead and share with all of you, if you haven't already connected with your admissions counselor, you can scan that QR code there to answer a couple of questions about where you're coming from, what high school do you go to, and you can also set up one-on-one appointments with us as well. And we can answer any questions that Daniel had mentioned earlier about switching semesters or when to sign up for orientation, all of that good information. But thank you all so much for being here tonight. We appreciate you spending your time with us. And if you want to go ahead and just hang tight here, you can, like I said, scan that QR code, and we hope to chat with all of you soon.